calling all educators with a passion for teaching and a health for faith. Get ready for a transformative journey with the Educators with Oil podcast, where host Ronette Branham is dedicated to helping teachers become better through biblical strategies.
Hi, welcome to Educators with Oil. I am your hostess, Ronette Branham, here to offer biblical strategies for effective teaching. I'm so glad to have you here today. Today is a great day. It's beautiful outside, it's beautiful inside, and we are here to help you thrive, inspire you, and be better educators, more equipped, ready to tackle that classroom. And so with that, I was talking to somebody about journaling and discussing your days at the end of the day, what happened, what was good, what you need to work on. And so I thought I was reflecting. I reflect every day. But now I met a woman who is going to come here and talk to us about reflective writing, how that is going to impact our teaching abilities to make us, more equipped for the classroom. And today I have a special guest. I have Miss Jennifer Howard. She is a seasoned educator and she has an education consulting business. So I'm going to let her tell you a little bit more about herself. And here she is. How are you today, Jennifer?
I'm good, and it's good to be here. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
You're welcome. I'm glad you're here. I really appreciate you signing up for this. And if you want to introduce yourself a little better than I did, you are pleased to do so.
Thank you again. My name is Jennifer Howard of Jennifer's Education Consulting. And I was a teacher for many, many years, 31 to be exact. I taught all the elementary grade levels. And then I began to do professional development sessions with other teachers. I should say that I actually started teaching in 1986. I was a Sunday school teacher. And it just, as years went by, I became more and more proficient at teaching and took it on as an actual career. So what happened was around my last 7 years of classroom teaching, I began to do professional development sessions with other teachers. The form that it took on was, number one, improving instructional practice through self-reflective writing. And so we know that many times professional development sessions are very prescriptive and actually kind of boring, if we want to be honest, and don't meet the needs of teachers. So I think it's important for people to improve their practice from the inside out, because that's how you teach people best, from the inside out, not from the outside in. You're not taking a medicine to get better. What we're doing is digging deep inside our psyches, our souls, and our spirits to become better as who we are, so that what we are improves, right? And that's what I do in my professional development sessions, where we grow through reflecting on ourselves, and then how that affects our teaching.
I like that. Yeah, because we do little quick reflecting. Did this work? Oh, that didn't work. I'm not going to do that again. But to actually have a workshop centered around that, I'm excited to hear how that even developed. I know you said that's the form it took. Right. And I'm glad that it did, because we really need to sit down and reflect. But to be intentional about that reflection is another thing right there. So I'm excited to hear. Well, how did it take that form? Was it like people were forgetting things?
No, I became very proficient at teaching the Bible. And that started very early on. And it was noticed by the adults, because I was very, very young. I was 19 years old. And I was teaching Sunday school. And it was very apparent, not to me, but to the adults in the room, that I had a gift. So what happened was I during my teaching, I knew that I had to marry the whole person, mind, body, soul, and spirit, with what that curriculum was. So no matter how old they were, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 year old, 8 year old, my learning centered around um, having young people, or facilitating young people understanding themselves, and understanding that the purpose of education is to become not just to memorize facts and information, but
Right.
that our behavior would be so we'd be able to help somebody else. We know that's a spiritual experience. You don't even have to mention God,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? With little
Absolutely.
children. And I like to say that my SEL was high quality literature. Because if you read high quality stories that are profound in with their universal meanings, you're going to minister to that deep part of them. The room's going to get real quiet.
Mhm.
Nobody's going to be playing around and acting up, because you've touched that space in us that's crying out and that's hungry for something more than just facts and figures. So I would teach my children that letters make words,
Mhm.
words make sentences, sentences make stories, stories make books, and books change the world. So
Oh,
they could
wow.
they could literally see the progression. And then with numbers, I would say numbers run the world. We would talk about numbers are everywhere. And actually,
Yeah.
I became extremely proficient at teaching math, which surprised me. I didn't
Mhm.
expect for that to happen, but because I began to understand the power of numbers, and that it was simply another language, and the spirit of exploration and perseverance
Mhm.
and curiosity is in numbers. I mean, it's right there in front of you, right?
Yeah.
Persevering to solve a problem, learning about the world, right? And so when I began to become enlightened, my students became enlightened.
Yeah.
So my classroom was very, very exciting and brimming with a lot of potential and hope, because the spirit of the place was love.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I like that how you go back to that digging deeper so they can, be that so they can become. And I like that, like so today, I'm gonna leave and come back. Today we were working on stories, that personal narratives.
Hmm.
My students are second graders. Some of them know their letters, some of them don't. Some of them know the sounds of their letters. Some of them can read second grade level, some of them cannot, of course, if they don't know letters, but they can all draw. And so they're drawing. I told them to divide their paper into four, and then tell about something that they experienced, not necessarily where they went, but something that they experienced. So today it was adding adjectives to describe it. I just so happened I had this shirt on.
Hmm.
If you told your mom that about my shirt, how would you describe it? Somebody said it's red, black, and white. Another little boy had on a red, black, and white shirt. So, but if he walked in the door, your mom would think that I had on the same shirt. Then
Uh-huh.
it had letters, and then the letters, but his shirt says Gap. So your mom is going. So I was allowing them to dig deeper and make me picture it. So picture their room. We read a story that had a lot of pictures, and it was really graphic. It was talking about a little girl's messy room. I forgot the whole title, but she was the absolute messiest. And
Hmm.
they described, I read, and I said, what do you think this picture is going to look like? So it helped them with their writing. And I like that because it was another level for them, not
Right.
just I
Right.
went to the store, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So
Yes.
I love writing. I love reading that.
Hmm.
This is, I think I like what you're doing here.
Yeah. So you can see how I just took what I was doing with the children. I remember the day I was standing in my classroom and the thought came into my mind, I wonder if I could do this with adults.
Oh, yeah, because that's your business right there.
And guess what? Yeah, not only can I do it with adults, they need it just as much as children do.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I need it right now. I needed it last week. I needed to sit down, even though I know I teach that. Like writing, writing your thoughts out and all that. I needed it. For some reason, I couldn't do it. Like, it just was, not that I couldn't do it. It just was like, I, I don't know what it was. I didn't sit down and write. I knew that's what I needed to get it out and write it. I just didn't. I just didn't. But now I'm back. But so, how does that a self-reflective writing differ from any other writing, professional writing?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'm really glad you asked that question. Self-reflective writing aims at the innermost part of people. So it's very, very difficult to fake it when you're writing, and especially when I've given you a prompt that makes you think. So I very carefully choose prompts. I very carefully choose excerpts from books. I very carefully choose topics, and I very carefully choose children's literature. So no matter what the age group is, I'm going to choose a profound children's book that makes us all think. For example, What Do You Do with an Idea by Yamada, right? So that would touch everybody's heart and mind. So what I do then is to take that book, read it out loud, and then we're going to start pulling little pieces out of that book that talk about the nature and the purpose of ideas, right? So we're going to go, self-reflective writing goes into the idea sphere, right? And we take the qualities, right, and the nature of the idea sphere, and we start to pull it down here, and we talk about some pretty important existential things. And when adults do that, all sorts of stuff comes out. This is what I'm talking about. Is not prescriptive. So when teachers finally have the opportunity to actually talk about something deep, meaningful, substantive, and relatable, like what's going on inside of them. But I'm using a little children's book to talk about the stuff that's going on inside of them. So I make the space very safe. All sorts of wonderful things come out, because I'm asking some bigger questions, and they're responding, and they're starting to talk to each other, and then I'm going to narrow it down. Good teachers don't tell you what they're doing. You don't know where you're going, but I'm going to narrow those ideas down through those questions, and I'm going to get to the heart of what they need.
Oh, I like that. That sounds like therapy. Sounds like something a therapist would do.
Well, there is something, I know you know about bibliotherapy. And so books are very therapeutic.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm ready to sit on the couch and have you read the story, and then I sit up and then I dig deep, or I lay back and think. I'm picturing the whole thing as in a therapist's office with the couch. But so can you give us an example, just an example of one of the teaching experiences that can uncover what could go unnoticed in teaching?
I did a conference last year, and I read Big by Vashti Harrison. Now, side note, Vashti Harrison was the first Black woman to win the Caldecott. So she won it with this book called Big. Big is a fantastic picture book. So I've just read the book out loud at the conference, and we're starting to dig and write, and I looked up and one of the teachers was crying.
Yeah, I could picture that.
Because it hit home, right? So that's one of the things that can happen.
So how does that being open and vulnerable, because when I have two questions for that. That makes you vulnerable or makes you feel ready to be. So the writing, if you're in a workshop, are we sharing our writing, or is that just for ourselves?
We're doing both. Some of it is private, and I'm not going to ask anybody to share anything, but some of it is to be shared. And then some of it, you're just going to share it with the person sitting next to you. You're going to do a, think, pair, share with somebody. And we just use different protocols.
Yeah. Okay. So this makes me think. I went to a workshop. I like habit 7 habits of highly successful people, right? And it just was different. It was at school at the beginning of the year. You know how we have that orientation, we're going in, and I got it because I was ready for it. Like, this is what I need to do to change me. But other people were like, but what if the kids don't listen? They're not ready for this, and it wasn't for the students. So how do we make that transition when you're coming here? That I'm not thinking about trying to use this on the students when it's really for me to make me more effective. How do I make that trend, or how do you allow the teachers to connect?
The same way that I did in my classroom, by creating a culture of comfort and safety and relatability. Because before I start, I'm going to tell you my story.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't wake up one day and was this teacher that's able to walk in the room and all these magical things happen, even though it's true they do. I wasn't like this 31 years ago.
Oh.
So when I share, I'm transparent first and share my story and tell them, what happened,
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I could appreciate this. Do you do your own workshops, or do you go into schools with it?
Both, actually. I do workshops online, and universities kind of like me. In the teaching programs, they tend to like me. So I've been back to universities a couple of times for them. And I've done, through the university, I've done PDs with teachers, because some universities have specific programs where they're working with teachers.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Yeah. Also, because this sounds like I'm in a speaking academy, and they're teaching us how to go into schools to present and present who we are and what we do. And so I'm looking for you to come to Trenton. I don't know how you get in. I know some people, but I know some people. So I'm looking for this. And so, what advice will you give me if, like I said, I reflect every day, and sometimes I journal, sometimes I don't. I've been doing less journaling lately, and then I've been trying to pick it back up. I try to pick a little bit up last week, get back into it so I could, free my mind, put it on paper.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give someone who's starting out in self-reflective writing, and how do they actually use self-reflective writing?
Yeah. Well, I think that the first thing to do is to just start writing, and to go get that black and white notebook or whatever color you want your notebook to be, and to just start writing. Here's a prompt. I feel like.
Oh.
I think that, and let it be a stream of consciousness, just the way you feel, just the way you think. I also think that it's important to be reading, to pick up a book and to read. I read everything. I love reading fantasy children's novels. And for some reason, they just really get me every time. And when you start reading and you're reading something you enjoy, it gets your juices flowing, and you become a better writer because you're reading. There's a reading writing connection. I think we all know that, right? There's definitely a reading writing connection. So that's the way I think get started, simply by writing.
Okay.
Write about what you're thinking about. And it doesn't matter. There's no right and wrong, no judgment. Just write about what you're thinking about.
Oh, okay. So are there any particular prompts? Oh, you gave us that one prompt.
I feel like, I think that. Or here's another one. I don't know what to write about, but, especially when you get stuck.
Yeah.
Just use that one. I don't know what to write about, but, and then you'll start writing about what's going on, what you're feeling. and then that will lead. Then you'll start, with a little bit of encouragement. You'll and because you need to write, you can then ask yourself why. Every time you write a sentence, just ask why, and then answer it. Then ask why, then answer it again.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm remembering this stuff. Um, I like that. So I have a few more questions for you. How often should educators engage in self-reflective writing, and how can they make it a sustainable habit? Like I said, sometimes I write, sometimes I don't.
Mhm.
There's no
I think
particular.
it's important to become a part of a community.
Mhm.
And the National Writers Project does a lot of work with teachers, and I'm a part of a writing community. As a matter of fact, I'm going on a writers retreat this coming Friday night with a bunch of teachers, and we're just going to write into the night, and then get up in the morning and then just write all day long together. So if you contact the National Writers Project, there are writing institutes and writing retreats. There's a good amount of them available. So to get in a group, and the other thing is DIY, because there must be 10 million ELA teachers
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
this country, right? So you can even get together and do it yourself,
Oh,
and
yeah.
take all those skills that you have in teaching the kids and create your own program.
Yeah, yeah. I like that. I
Mhm.
do. So you said the National Writers Society
The National Writers Project.
project. I was
Mhm.
typing it, and then because I was listening to you and I was typing, I forgot what the last word was. Okay. And so how do you have success stories of a teacher using self-reflective writing, right?
Mhm.
And they became a better teacher or a more effective teacher. I don't know what's a better teacher. More effective in the classroom.
Yeah, I've mentored teachers. I have mentored teachers and helped teachers to think through their processes by writing. And yes, I do have success stories of teachers who were and who improved, and they come back and tell me, thank you. Thank you for making them think. Thank you for taking the time out to talk with them and to be with them. And yes, and I get a lot of my feedback. When they do after the workshops, and they give me the feedback, they talk to me. So yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm loving this. I'm going to start today because I do it, but to help me be better all around. But if I'm intentional, because I'm doing it for me. You know how you do things for you because you know you need to be better. But if I'm
Right.
intentionally self-reflecting, writing so I could present my best self, that's what I'm doing. But this sounds a little bit more intentional about.
Yes, it's very, very intentional, and I go through a process. And yes.
Yeah, so I'm
Mhm.
ready. I'm gonna, when I get at a stump, I'm gonna text you. So okay, so I know what are some barriers or misconceptions educators face when trying to adopt self-reflective writing? Like I
I
said,
think that one of the biggest barriers, excuse me, are the myths of limitation.
oh,
Because teachers, and I talked about this on a recent webinar, teachers have a view of themselves that is very, very limited. And there are many reasons for that. But what I've found is that once teachers understand who they are and understand just how valuable they are, even though right now education is going through a lot of several crises. Right, we were already going through a crisis, but now
yeah,
we've got fires burning on almost all the way around us.
yeah,
Right, so teachers are like the saying goes, teachers are feeling some kind of way right now,
yeah,
and they need support, and the need for someone to pull them to the side and say, just breathe. Just breathe. Number one,
Mhm.
you're going to be okay. Number two, what you think about, you're going to bring about, right? So if you stay mired in toxicity
Yeah.
and anger and resentment,
Mhm.
that's what you're going to be teaching.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
right? So if you're going to bring that about, but if you can somehow through your spiritual practice, because I can't lie, the reason I am who I am is because my spiritual
Yeah.
practices.
Yeah.
And when you engage in your spiritual practices, they will elevate your mind, and they'll
Absolutely.
yeah, they rearrange your DNA, right? And you'll
Uh-huh.
be up in that what I'm repeating after one pastor who calls it the idea sphere. You'll be up in that idea sphere, right? And you'll be thinking differently and producing so much more. See, crisis pushes us,
Mhm.
and either you are crushed or you crush. And
Yeah.
you have to make a choice in a crisis. I wrote an essay called "Teaching Through the Storm," which is used in some colleges. Kind of use it with young teachers. Um, you have to be able to teach through the storm.
Yeah.
This isn't the first crisis we've been in, and it won't be the last one.
Right.
Right. And I last year I had the privilege of working at a local university and teaching young teachers. And I quickly realized number one, it's teachers that make teachers. And number two, young people who are called to teach will answer the call.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so you're talking about that storm and rising and teaching through it.
Mhm.
I heard somebody talking about the clouds, how you can't see, but you have that navigation system. And in the clouds is where the turmoil might be, that turbulence. But once you get over those clouds, because you got to keep rising. And that's what you have me thinking about, because it is what if I just keep focusing on this, what's wrong, I'm never
Right.
going to reach higher and then see what it is I'm here for. And then, yeah, that
Right.
writing is going to help
Right.
you.
Ronette, because nobody teaches teachers how to navigate through the storm. But when you think about it, that's where the real teaching takes place. And certainly the real learning. Because when you're in God's classroom,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Or some people, if you don't want to call him God and you're triggered by God, when you're in spirit's classroom,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
You are learning something.
Yeah,
Now you can choose to tune out and not to focus on what you're learning, or you can ask, what is the lesson that I need from this?
yeah, yeah,
Right. And then see, because once you learn what it is you're supposed to learn, that was what your teaching was all about. The
yeah,
math was just the vehicle to work through the problem.
yeah,
The science content was just the vehicle. And then you have examples of scientific concepts that actually prove what I'm saying. Right. So those things are just the vehicle, right? The great novels are just the vehicle to
yeah,
help us to work through the human condition.
yeah.
But it, right?
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm loving this. And then I was thinking back where you said about reading, because that triggers our writing, or it inspires our writing. So
Mm-hmm.
what would you suggest the teacher read? Just to read. I read a lot. I read a
Right.
lot. I'm in a live book read every single morning at 7
Right.
a.m. on my way to work.
Yeah.
Every single, we're on a Zoom call. So I read and then I read on my own. So what do you suggest? What are some of the suggestions of books?
There are a lot of books that teachers can read to help them. There are practical. What teachers need is a buffet of books to help them. There are the practical books, which are very, very important, that have the basic information in them
Mhm.
that help you to grow and understand your students. I'm thinking Yardsticks by chip wood. Yardsticks is a very simple book that teaches what kids look like from ages 5 to 14.
Mhm.
And that doesn't change what they're like, what they prefer, what they tend to do, what they tend not, how they're learning, right? It's just snapshots of what kids look like,
Really?
right?
Uh-huh.
And then there are the inspirational books. There's there's an older book. It's called Chicken Soup for the Teacher's Soul.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
a good one, right?
Uh-huh.
And then there's one by Parker Palmer, The Courage to Teach. That's an older book, but that's a goodie. That was
Oh,
very good. And then I would just throw out anything by Dr. Christopher Emden, because he's teaching us about culturally responsive teaching. And he's going to challenge you.
oh, okay, yeah, because I don't care what town you go in New Jersey. I'm just gonna because I know New Jersey, the
Mhm.
demographics are changing
Right.
so much. So you
Mhm.
really need to understand your students. And
Mhm.
so you have to find books in that kind of genre. Um,
Yeah. And
yeah.
some people are uncomfortable. So we have 79% white teachers,
Hmm.
and we have, I don't know what the percentage is in New Jersey, but I can tell you in 31 years of teaching, I taught maybe 4 white kids
Oh yeah.
for the entire time.
Yeah. We probably
And
have four school.
yeah,
If we have four, I only
yeah,
I
yeah,
might have saw one. I don't
yeah.
know. And we have
Yes,
our school, my particular school goes from kindergarten to third grade, and we like 90% Hispanic students. So
right,
that's our in our school, but there's other schools in the district because they're go by where you live.
right. So
Uh,
I ended up the last 7 years, I ended up teaching first grade in Spanish,
yeah,
because I realized this you can't do this in English. This isn't going to work. You need to speak their language.
well,
So
you
I
need
worked really hard to learn as much as I could to teach them. So the other part of self-reflection is looking at your kids and saying, how am I really going to teach these kids? I really don't know. If you're white and you're looking at a whole classroom full of kids that don't look like you, it's
yeah.
time to learn rather than sit there and be
Absolutely.
frustrated. It's time to learn how to reach them. So,
Oh, I'm standing like this in a
mhm,
class, two classrooms. I say this all the time. I don't want it to sound bad as I feel
mhm,
sometimes, but because we don't have enough bilingual, I'm
right,
supposed to say that differently. Our resources are low when it
right.
comes to bilingual teachers who speak Spanish, right? Who
Mhm,
teach Spanish. And so they have to utilize the English speaking teachers. So in order for everybody to get that Spanish speaking teacher,
mhm.
we swap the kids in the middle of the day. So
Okay,
I have two classes. And I'm standing here just think it's September, October, November, December, because I still have it. Kids are who do not speak English
right,
or don't know the letters in English, the numbers in
right,
English, and I have to teach them in English. Right?
right.
We have the Spanish teacher, the Spanish world, as they call it. This is the English world.
Yeah,
So I have to learn. I have to
right.
learn how to reach my students because
Yes.
you have to learn something today. You have to
Mhm.
learn something today, and you have to learn something today.
That's
Your
right.
parents, you're learning today. You have
Mhm.
to learn something. So yeah, you have to. You
Yeah,
have
you do. You have to change. And that's
to.
part of reflecting and asking, either I'm going to stand here and complain or I'm going
Yeah,
to change.
nah. Complaining helps nobody. People get mad at you, so you might as well stop complaining and figure it out. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I love that. So how can teachers balance the time demands of teaching with making room for self-reflection? Is that something we do at home, in school? How, or just anytime you feel like it?
Okay, so I think that it's important to understand that in order to be good at what we do, we have to be okay.
Yeah.
So it's a different teacher that walks in the room that's calm and focused and ready and takes control of the room just smoothly, just as smooth and pretty, right? Because you're at peace. Your
Yeah.
body, your mind, and your spirit is okay. So when you walk in the room, the kids can be all over the place. But all
Uh-huh.
you have to do is right? or ring your bell,
Uh-huh.
right? Or right, or do a little something to get
Yeah.
their attention. The only way you're going to be able to do that well is to have a practice that you're engaged in every single day. I don't care if it's meditation,
Mm-hmm.
prayer, yoga, whatever you do, you
Mm-hmm.
have to get yourself focused. And the thing is, you know you're a mature teacher when you realize that some things are necessary,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's just like nutrition. You know you've got to drink water. You've got to drink water,
Yeah.
right? You know you got to eat something green. And
Yeah.
your body's not going to function well.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta, I think it's important to come to the realization that you don't have time not to engage in a focusing activity.
Oh,
You can
so
be caught up in, see, you can be in this world and
mhm.
not be of this world, because
Oh
you got
yeah.
to realize that most people in America are caught up in this hamster wheel. They're caught up in the
Yeah.
hamster wheel.
Uh-huh.
But every single teacher who was ever called to teach, who became a master, wasn't caught up in it.
No. Right, right. Yeah, I like that. I was reading or listening to, I think Earl Nightingale. I don't like this. I always mention whose name it is, but he's talking about that there's always a 5%, a group, the 5% who rise above, and then the 95%. He said in any community you go to, any community. So just say we're talking about teachers, that
Mhm.
95% are in that hamster wheel. Then 5% they are above. You can go to church. There's that 5% in church. You can go to school and just look at the students. You have that 5%. You can look at your class. So it's true. And so yeah, there are some who are, it's not inside them, being of the world. You're not. It's not inside you.
Yeah.
That's, I think, I don't care what anybody says, that has to be done with intention. And that is a separate group
Yeah.
of people. And
Yeah.
I use the intentionality all the time,
Hmm.
because really you just can't just go with the flow. It's not going to work. You have these
No.
students in school expecting something. They don't
Hmm.
say it, they're expecting something.
But I think too that part of good instructional practice leadership is modeling peace of mind and modeling focus. If you've
Yeah,
never had that phenomenal leader, you realize that they had a presence,
hmm,
and you're like, how does he or how does she, or what is that thing that
yeah,
he or she has, right? So it's very often and many teachers don't realize there is a hamster wheel,
yeah. That's
because in our
that.
culture, it is so embedded, and
Uh-huh.
we are so preconditioned to react until somebody has to come along and say, hey guys, there's a hamster wheel. Did you notice?
Uh-huh.
And then most people will turn and say, what hamster wheel?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's like working. You
Uh-huh.
you're working and you come home, you say you're tired because you know that's what people say. You come home
Yes.
tired. I sit down. Oh, let me sit down and watch TV because that's what people do. But
Hmm.
then there's that 5%. They're
Hmm.
not. I don't. I last week I watched TV because I was off last week and I
Hmm.
was trying to decompress. And so I found a couple shows, but I don't. My TV sometimes doesn't go on because I have things to do. And so yeah, that is, people don't realize. They like, this is what we do. What you mean? You come home, put your feet up, right?
Hmm.
That's what we do. Or we go in the classroom and we complain. We go out to the teacher's
Right.
lounge and we complain about what's not happening. Right.
Hmm.
So I'm loving this. I really am. So when you say balance it, I don't know if there's a necessarily a balance or not, but that I just have to find the time. And should I make it a regular time every day at this time? Is that more confining if I do every
Yes. Well, think about this. Say it's a single woman and you really want to be married. You really want to have a husband and some kids and a nice house, and you're right. And she meets this man, and he is the nicest, kindest guy she's ever met. Tell me what the probability is that when he asks her on a date, she's going to take the time to get ready. And she's going to be looking good and smelling good. And her hair is going to be looking good. She's going to have a cute little outfit. Is she going to make the time to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Because she values that. She values the end result because she's met this wonderful man. He'll possibly be a fantastic partner for her. And even if she has to go to the gym and tighten it up a little bit. And even if she knows he likes braids, she gonna go. And if she may not like braids, but she gonna buy that Tylenol and she gonna go to the braider and she gonna get the micro braids. We all know it's true.
No, it is true. But I was gonna say about the braids. I went and I make sure they don't braid tight. I said I can't get headaches on this. I'm telling you, I did this done yesterday. I can pull it up, put it down, and it does not hurt because I refuse to go to the gym. But that's I absolutely refuse.
Right.
I won't do it.
So
if
my point,
I feel you hurting, it's
done. My point is, if it's valuable, like you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is valuable because I need to be the best me in order to see what I need to do in my classroom, in order to see the students. If I can't see through all these clouds, I can't see the students. So writing, I'm loving that. Yeah. And reading, and there's so many books and types of books to read because you said you like children's fantasy.
Yeah.
And so does that help with, what does that do? Help you with your imagination?
I really think it does. And it's a genre that I was reluctant to read. But I got, and I was like, wonder what that book. And then I got hooked. Because I was always reading nonfiction. And then I picked up the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Franklin, something Weiler. That was it for me. I read that book. Those kids got lost in that museum, got hooked up in that museum, and the parents didn't know where they were, and that was it. So yes, it's very inspirational for me when I read those fantasy books.
Okay, let me see. And you said this self-reflective writing supports our professional development activities, like lesson planning and student feedback. Does it, or is just to free us?
It definitely. You're on the right track. Yes, because what happens is teachers don't get, after we leave college, we don't get to play with our thoughts anymore. But in order to teach well, you have to you have to be able to think about what you're thinking about very well. So before you sit down and write those structured lesson plans, you've got to have some mind playtime. Right? Where you're just writing, or you're just reading, or you're just laughing, but where the life of the mind is fully engaged. And that's what happens when we read. The life of our mind is thoroughly engaged. And for teachers, since especially elementary teachers, because we have to teach all 5 subjects, whether or not we realize it, we're learning. And we're reading. And it makes us better because when we read, we engage with an absent teacher.
Say that again.
It makes us better because when we read, we engage with an absent teacher. So that theme that's inside of, let me think of something. I read James by Percival Everett. And James, that book that won every single award this year. And so I got curious. And James is about Jim in the Huck Finn books. So Jim was a slave, but we never heard the story from his point of view. So when Percival Everett, a Black man, grabs that thought, he makes that entire story about James. He doesn't even call him Jim, he calls him James. And that book makes you think and reflect about Huck Finn, and Tom Sawyer. It just makes you reflect about that whole that book or maybe it's a couple of books, I don't remember, in a different way. So it makes you engage with the characters and the theme and the plot that you know so well, complete from a completely different perspective.
I want to read that book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and reading does change you as far as how you're talking and conversing with other people. Because I found out I'm different than I was last year. I'm different than I was 5 years ago. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not just because of circumstances, but because of things that I've read, things that I've learned. I even one time a family member said to me something that I said before, and I said, "Well, I don't think like that." They said, "Well, you lowered your standard." No, I raised my standards, and it's just because I'm not who. Yeah, I said that 10 years ago, but I'm not saying that now. I don't even think like that. So
Right.
yeah, you have to. I
Right.
like this. So
Right.
self-reflective writing, you have to utilize your reading, your writing, your communication skills, and everything's gonna be better because it all is intertwined. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing.
Absolutely. 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 And teachers need the opportunity to explore the life of their minds.
Yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, these are this is a great idea, and it's going to help me. I just by reflecting. Hey, Che. Yeah, just by reflecting and thinking about it and reading, like I said, I'm a part of a live book reading in the morning, and we reflect and we discuss what we got out of the book, right? And that helps us think differently because we didn't. Somebody said something that they got out of it. I never thought of it like that. You're
Yes.
opening your mind, so this
Yes.
is going to help me a whole lot more than my journaling generally, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you gave us a few books for looking into deep. What did you have any more books that you wanted, or those were James
I
wrote to me?
do, but you're going to have to come on the journey of one of my webinars
Oh yeah, you have
to
one
get
coming up.
my full cadre of books.
Oh, okay, good. So this is where we at right now. So I thank you for I'm not gonna keep it going, but I thank you. So how can we connect to you? I did put in the chat. What is this that I put in the comments right here?
So, if a school district wants to contact me to schedule professional development sessions, there is a link to contact me. It's actually a Google form that they can fill out. So they can have a discovery call with me and we can talk about how I can service their school district. If it's a university, I also work with universities and teachers, pre-service teachers, and teachers who come back to the university take courses. If it is a nonprofit organization, because nonprofit organizations work with young people too, and I'm willing to come in and to work with a nonprofit organization in the same way. That Google link, that Google form, is what they need to fill out to let me know, what types of services they're in need of.
Yeah, I'm gonna recommend you to some people at my church. I didn't think of that. I'm thinking schools. And
Right.
then, we have the whole youth department, youth
Oh
pastor,
yeah.
all of that.
Yes. Yes.
It's a pretty
Yes, I have taught the Bible for many, many years,
Mhm.
and many people go to church and read their Bible and have no clue how those books are all working together. They have
Yeah.
no clue how they can study their Bible, like literally study it, like really study it, so that they can get the most that they can. And my goal when I work with people in the Bible is that they gain a working knowledge of the Word of God, and that we begin to connect those what Jesus is really saying,
Mhm.
right? What he's really intending for us to know with our lives. And I use the same things that I use when I do my workshops, same exact technique.
Oh, yeah. So I'm gonna talk to somebody,
Hmm.
and I don't know. All you do is ask,
Yeah.
and let them know this is what you do and how awesome. And I have this to share, this video also. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about going reading James, that book. And I thought I heard about that book, but I don't know how long ago it was that I forgot. I know there was a book. And so again, I just want to thank you, and anybody in the comments on YouTube, if you click on YouTube, in the comments is a link, and you can actually click on the link. I clicked on the link to make sure it was working, that I did it right. I know it was working, but make sure I did it right. And so you can find Jennifer Howard, her contact information right there. You click on the link. And I really appreciate this. Do you have any closing remarks?
Just want to say that I have a webinar coming up on April 26th. This is open to the general public, not just teachers. It's called Help, I Love My Job, but I've got to pivot. And it's using guided self-reflection to protect my professional passion. And that I can also, I can send that to you. And if you want to put it up, if they want to contact me on my website, it's www.jenniferseducationconsulting.com. And I'm available there too. On Facebook, it's Jennifer's Education Consulting. And all my stuff is on Facebook. And I'm also on LinkedIn, Jennifer Howard. So there's plenty of ways to contact. I'm on Instagram too, Jennifer's Consulting. So you can contact me any of those ways.
Okay, I'm going to add that to the comments so that anybody can contact you if they scroll down to the comments under the video, and then on YouTube and not YouTube,
Facebook
and LinkedIn, too, so that we could see what's happening. We can get in contact with you, because this is great. And then a lot of times, like you said, we don't know we're on a hamster wheel, or that 95%, until somebody pulls us off of it, or gives us some insight into another way of thinking or looking or finding ideas. And this is a great idea of reflective writing. And again, I thank you for joining me. And I thank everybody who watched. There were people in and out, and I appreciate you. These are great people I know. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. Share with another teacher, somebody who would enjoy or is looking for some insights and some strategies into teaching. This is a great strategy. It's a great strategy to use with our students.
It is.
I'm appreciative. So thank you, and have a blessed day.
Thank you, Ronette.
You're welcome.
Subscribe to Educators with Oil podcast on your preferred platform, and join Ronette on this mission to empower teachers through the wisdom of the Bible. Because when biblical strategies meet the classroom, extraordinary teaching happens.
Educators, let's shine a light on our classrooms. See you on Educators with Oil podcast, where teaching and faith unite.